spoke to the MTA chairman just about an hour ago about this, and he kind of downplayed it, saying it was a very minimal survey. It's all preliminary info, Rebecca.
Yeah, Dan, good morning. Preliminary and voluntary. And the bottom line is the results from the NYU study are much different from the data that we're receiving from the MTA agency. So it will be interesting to see what plays out in the coming weeks as research continues to be done to see what kind of impact the pandemic has had on the MTA network. Now, NYU launched its survey back in July, really just to see why so many MTA employees were getting sick. We know there are 70,000 employees within the network. According to the survey findings outlined in the Daily News, researchers received questionnaires from 645 frontline NYC transit employees. 24% of them reported a positive diagnosis of or antibody tests. Now, that's significantly higher than an assessment Governor Cuomo released on May 13th, which found 14% of transit workers have contracted the disease. And those numbers are higher than the agency's data, which shows just 7.4% of employees at NYC Transit caught COVID-19. So at least 131 MTA workers have died from the virus. Now, a researcher leading the survey shows it likely spread quickly within transit workplaces. Research also shows those who contracted the disease did not live in areas with high infection rates, meaning they likely got sick on the job. Now, the study is not over quite yet. Researchers will continue their work to see how the pandemic has impacted the mental health on the city transit workers, especially if you remember back in March and April when the MTA was forced to temporarily halt subway service. Now, earlier this morning, we caught up with MTA Chairman Pat Foy inside the LIRR Jamaica station. He says these findings come from a voluntary survey, and the MTA is continuing its efforts to keep crews safe.
More research on the issue is critical. The data that we have, and obviously every transit worker who was infected by the virus is one transit worker too many. Our percentage is 7%. That's based on data. It's scientific. We're going to continue working with all sorts of researchers around the city, the state, and the country. And our focus is to do everything we can to minimize health risks to our customers and to our employees.
And Chairman Foy also joined MTA workers at the LIRR station here and throughout the entire trail path, handing out these pink masks. I am wearing one myself. It's to support breast cancer awareness. And of course, it's also a way to promote the pandemic measures, which are still very much in place. Of course, it is a requirement to wear a mask when you are riding the subway systems. We're live in Jamaica, Queens. Rebecca Solomon, Pix 11 News.